I was born in San Francisco, and I was raised in San Francisco. My parents lived in Brisbane when I was born. I was 2.5. I don't remember anything. And my mother said that I had started falling. So she got me to the hospital, and of course they took their tests, and they said it was polio. The first that I remember was when I was 4 or 5 years old, and I know the first time that my mother used to take me to water therapy. I remember going to water therapy, and to help me walk, But I was paralyzed when I had polio, except for my left arm. And, the rest of my body was paralyzed. But I came back from that because of the Sister Kenny treatments and therapy. I was able to walk again, but I ended up, my right leg came back normal, like nothing had ever happened to it. My left leg was the one that was affected more than anything. I wore a brace at that time on my left leg in order to walk. I could not walk without it. And then my right hand, my thumb, was the one that was, it was weak. I couldn't use my thumb. They did a muscle transplant. They transplanted a muscle from my ring finger over to my thumb, so then I was able to use my thumb. At that point, I used my left hand to write. So of course my mother, she made sure that I didn't write with my left hand anymore once I got strength in my, how mothers are. You shouldn't be left-handed. So because of her, I started using my right hand. I mean, I write right-handed, So, but because of that, I'm ambidextrous. I do the stronger things with my left hand. I can do two things. So maybe that affected both sides of my brain.
What did your parents, particularly your mother, do that was right with respect to having a child that was growing up with the effects of polio?
Well, I was raised in a house with a lot of love.
Were there brothers and sisters?
No, I was the only child. And, she was always there for me. I mean, I always felt like, I had that cushion to fall back on. There was times, she encouraged me to, lead a normal life. She didn't, and there was times when maybe, the kids were being mean or something, but normal type, how kids are. And she'd tell me, go fight your own battles. Go fight your own battles. If she felt like it was something that I could handle myself. But you have to teach your children to handle problems. You can't do everything for them, and that's what she did for me. And she was a very strong woman. She was always there for me. I always felt secure, and I think that's the key to it. And for anybody really, you need to feel secure, and you need to feel like you're able to go out and do things for yourself. That you're not going to have to rely on somebody to do everything for you. Most polio survivors are type A type people anyway. They push themselves, and because when we were in the hospital, we were told, you do what the doctors and nurses tell you. You work hard, and if you work hard and you do these things, you're going to get better. And so, you had that mentality, going into life. And when you went to school, you just did the best you could. I was challenged, and I had things I had to deal with, as far as the other kids. But yeah, I felt different. I have to wear a brace on my right leg now. It's up to my knee. Well, I finally went to, after I came to this group and, got information on the different doctors that knew anything about it, I was told that I should wear a brace on this leg, and it took me about a year to even get it done. And after I got it done, it took me a year to even wear it, because it's hard to accept. I got rid of a brace all those years ago. I got rid of it, and now it's back. And it's just very hard. It's very hard to accept. I remember her, talking about it, about, how wonderful it was, but it was too late for me. I mean, I only had it a couple of years, I had polio a couple of years before they found the vaccine, I think she regretted that, they hadn't found it earlier, to have to save me and a lot of other kids from having to go through that. And in dying, even almost dying, I had a cousin who died from it. And, the parents lived in fear.